So now we'll move on to our final panel session of the keynotes. We have operators representing 5 continents. And I should introduce them. Thierry Souche is Group CIO of Orange. He's had a number of leadership positions within Orange. Ibrahim Gideon, Group Technology Officer at TELUS. I think Ibrahim won a prize last night, so congratulations. And Vinod Kurup, who's Group Chief CIO at Liberty Global, career in cable and telecoms. So, gentlemen, welcome on stage. So you may have noticed that there's one person missing. Harmeen Mehta, CIO of Airtel, couldn't be with us. You might have noticed that in the news that Airtel's tying up an acquisition of Telenor India. We did ask Harmeen to send us a few selfies we could look at. She went a bit better than that. She actually recorded some video for us. So how we can do this is we posed Harmeen 3 questions, and so I'm going to ask a question, then we'll go into the video. So hopefully we're synced in terms of questions and videos. So the first question we asked Harmeen was, how do you personally see your role changing as your organization transforms into a digital operator? So can we play the first video, please?
At Airtel, I see engineering at the heart of the organization and as the pillar enabling the entire digitization agenda. The dialogue with the business has completely changed. The need of the hour is for the CIO to act more as a business partner, to understand the business, and only then can you create not only a digital agenda, but also the right way of going about it and building the technology solutions that enable the simplification of the processes as well as enabling a brilliant customer experience. As I'm going down this route with a lot of my peers, one of the things that has really changed is the conversations that we are having. The business is coming with more and more complex problems, and what starts as a thought ends as a tech solution. And I think that is absolutely great. But at the same time, I must say that the pressure to perform and deliver has never been greater. But it's great to be in demand.
Okay, thank you. Question number 2. What are you asking of the people that work for you? So can we play Harmeen's response to that question, please?
Within engineering, a large part of the organization is now focused on digital and also the Airtel X Labs that we recently launched. The culture and the way of working in engineering is now very, very different. It's all of these guys who are working on digital, they come from technology companies and startups and less from telcos. And they've created a really vibrant environment, and that's what all of engineering is embracing and moving towards as well. What I really like is it's a very, very open culture, and that's what all these guys love as well. It's completely non-hierarchical, really feeding off thoughts and ideas and innovation. And I think that's what's given us a completely different vibe within the organization as well. What I expect out of my people is a deep love and passion for technology. I mean, that's what we are here to do at the end of the day. At the same time, I expect them to be highly technical and keep up with technology as well. In today's day and age, if you don't do that, you will be rendered irrelevant very quickly. The world will pass you by. The era of generalists is absolutely dead. We're living in a world of specialism. And each and every person needs to create a technical specialism for themselves. And that's where we invest a lot in training people and giving them the environment to go and try different ideas. There's no fear of failure. It's really focused on getting deliveries done. And the part of culture that we've created is when we think, we really think big. When we act with a lot of passion. When we dream, that's when we go and innovate. And when we set out to do something, we are absolutely unstoppable. And we love it.
Thank you. So the final question, how is your relationship with the business changing as IT becomes an enabler for the whole of the business? Should IT continue to operate as a standalone department? So play video, please.
So my business has always embraced technology. But the difference that I'm seeing is that they're bringing more complex and larger problems to our doors to get solved. It's the partnership between product and engineering is also getting deeper. It's getting very, very important. the way of thinking and approaching problems is getting is becoming different as well, because it's getting far more technical. This is the interesting part. They are actually thinking about innovative ways of how technology can solve that problem for them. And at the same time, I'm seeing a change within engineering as well. I think we are stretching a lot more. We are straining every muscle, every nerve, every brain cell. We're sweating like anything. We're trying to miss no beat, trying to do everything to get more and more done for the business, being more disruptive, being more bold. Yes, there are times where we falter, but we're not afraid of failures. We just dust ourselves off, learn from our mistakes, find how to apply things a little differently, and then really just move on. And keep carrying on and have the perseverance to do the same again and again till we achieve what we set out to achieve. And as the problems get more and more complex, this gets far more important. And this is also what brings product, business, engineering really working together. I think this is the tripod of success in our industry. And this is where technology really comes to life, is when all these three areas in an organization come together. That's what creates magic. And that's what we really like to do.
Okay, so thank you very much, Harmeen. So you now know the structure of the session. So let's go through those questions. So I really want this first question to be about you. So not your teams, it's just you. So maybe we'll start with Ibrahim. Welcome, morning. Congratulations on last night, by the way.
Thank you.
Do you have
that was a Teams award, by the way.
Oh, Teams award, so you don't have it with you?
No, I didn't bring it with me. I have a tattoo I'm trying to work on.
So can you tell us about what you personally, what you have had to change and what you will have to change about you and your style and your leadership?
So thanks, Mark. I'm going to surprise you. I don't think my job's changed the last 15 years. I think the fulfillment of my job the last 15 years has changed. And one fundamental part is people who are here are because they believe in APIs in general, right? Not just select people. We believe in collaboration. We believe in cheaper cost of ownership. So that has to be applied within our own jobs. So if I look at the work I have with the business, just because I am, in theory, I am the top geek at TELUS does not mean there can't be people who lead technology pieces within the business or certain parts of the organization. And that's changed in terms of the central thinking on architecture and leadership, but the actual fulfillment can be through multiple facets. So that is a complete departure from where we were in 2002, 2003.
But are you personally engaging in a different level or more with other functions and departments?
Well,
is it more collaborative?
I've come to IT through the CTO route. So,
right. Okay.
We build a network and they will come, but it has to be collaborative. And I think instead of waiting for people in the business to say, I need these 5 things, if we see that these 5 things are required, why the hell do we need to wait for somebody to write them down on a piece of paper? So that level of collaboration is 2 ways. If I may give a small example, we offer IPTV, so there's music on demand. And it's a blank page. It's the picture of the singer, the song title, but 9 times out of 10, there's no video. So one of the geeks in our IT department says, well, there's an empty space. Why don't we run a TELUS video on our new offers? We didn't have to wait for the business. So it's a 2-way street. I think it's about empowering, enabling, and allowing people to actually apply their thought. But we still need the right governance. So if you look at the realm of AI and data scientists, people will go crazy hiring data scientists everywhere, AI experts everywhere. It's up to us. It's up to the technology team with their partners in the business to make sure there's a high-level architecture. And I was telling our colleagues at the TMF, I love the fact we have a framework. We're verifying it. We just put it out. But it's nice to have something we can reference it. So what's changed is my partners now don't report to me, and they're not necessarily in the engineering department. They're everywhere. And we've moved from that enterprise architecture where everybody reports in one area in the CIO department or CTO department to their embedded.
So the fact that they don't report to you, these people, how does that change how you work or collaborate with them?
Well, I think it's more of a collaboration, fair process. And then in the end, somebody will have to make a technical call on a pure technology. But I don't know about the rest of my colleagues here. The most important training I give my team now is business cases.
Okay.
And ROI. And I love what Andrew and the guys said. It's about not vendors selling you stuff. because they can sell you something. By the time you're done, they cost us 5x or 10x, and it's critical we work with them as partners to make sure it comes down.
Thierry, do you want to take the same question in terms of
Well,
you personally and how you work in the business and collaboration with other teams, your own team?
Just start by disagreeing with me because it makes it more exciting.
Yeah, well, we like disagreement, yeah.
oh, I'm not fully aligned, by the way.
Excellent.
But the point
That's
is,
probably as good as we're going to get.
I endorsed the role of group CIO at the same time that we went through the first steps of digital transformation in our own teams in the Orange Labs. So it gave us a starting point from where we could try and be much more influential into speeding up the transformation within the whole Orange groups. And Orange Group is 35 operations, B2C plus OBS. So we are actually really shifting in terms of way of working together as a community, much more as previously in a structured, siloed organization. And I think the best way to express it, when I had a discussion with a freshly recruited CIO, et cetera, I explained to him, I'm not your boss, I'm your godfather. It's far worse, right? So I'm just trying to make sure that the CIO community behaves properly and coordinated to enforce a little bit of sanity in this vibrant world where innovation gets in by every possible entrance. But at the same time, it's all about trust and empowerment. It's all about making sure collaboration and the right spirit and the right mindset is grown in each and every team, not just my teams, and they are large, but each and every BU's team, so that we set the basis for agility, for DevOps, etc. It's great. The second level where I think, and where I'm more aligned with you is
We were aligned on the first one, by the way.
so we'll discuss that off stage, is it forced me to be slightly more provocative partner to the CEOs in all the BUs. Why? Because there were BUs who embraced deeply, early, all the principles of agility and digital transformation, and those ones I could just help them, serve them, catalyst a little bit, but just accompany the move. And there were other BUs where, to be frank, it was more old world type of thinking, also because in their own market, their competitors were very legacy-minded, so there was not yet such a vital threat that they had to jump in the swimming pool and swim, right? So then, my role, as I see it, is to really engage with the whole quadrant over there, make sure the CEOs, the CIOs, the CMOs, the chief sales all understand what is coming with the next wave and better serve the wave rather than get it falling on their head. And that part of the job, to be frank, is a little bit more stretchy because it's not just about doing the technical stuff, it's about deeply influencing the company culture and trying to make sure they grasp deeply, not just with their neurons, but with their guts, what software could bring to them.
So you talked about being a godfather, you talked about influencing, which is very different, isn't it, from a command and control. And I mean, in order to influence the IT direction, you've had to talk to the CEOs of the OpCos rather than just the CIOs.
Both. CIOs are enablers, but the ones who should be leading such a deep transformation is a boss. Meaning, if the boss is not getting his shirt wet daily on the work floor, it will never happen.
And without delving specifically into the Orange Group of companies, presumably that relationship works better with some than with others. There'll be some CEOs that see things differently and think, I'm going to do my own stuff.
Yeah, they could. Good luck.
And does that happen?
It may happen. What we're trying to do is that they also exchange with peers, because what would come from the group CIO may not be audible, but what would come as successful transformation stories from other countries is very much valuable. So it's all about, again, playing the community and making sure that they get the best opportunity to share successes and failures from other experiences.
And so are there certain rules that you put into place in terms of conforming to certain technology rules and principles and architectures that simply must be obeyed?
There are still, but very few, because the point, and you rightly said, is really about empowering local digital teams.
And can you tell us what they are about, those rules? Can you, without spending too long?
very few rules, well, sometimes regulation imported, like GDPR and things like that, but very few rules regard to what is a very basic core minimum that we have to abide to in order to still grab some value in the future value chain. And things around identity, things around security, etc. But try and keep it minimum, because the more I would allow my teams to get creative with regard to mandatory rules, the more they're going to be rejected by local businesses as seen as, let's say, over-the-top type of pressure. They enough have pressure coming from local competition. They don't need us to be a burden on their back. They want us to be a catalyst to their transformation. So we work integrated into their project teams, and we bring skills, help, support, tools, processes sometimes, meaning not all Orange teams could do DevOps day one, but when we bring our expertise together, we can. So it's a question of getting them to grab the opportunity and getting them to be in the pull mode rather than us to be in a push mode.
Thank you. Vino, welcome.
Thank you.
Does this discussion resonate with you and your role in Liberty?
It does, and you know, after you mentioned the Godfather thing, I don't think I heard anything else. I was trying to figure out, like, how do I do that?
There are good fathers and good fathers.
They're godfathers. So this is my career aspiration. I'm going to put that in my objectives for the year. Yes, it does. Maybe a short answer. The biggest change that I'm seeing personally, and also my organization, is the business is now looking to us to communicate the technology strategy first, and then saying what they're going to do. Right? And it's a point of stress. This is not a happy place necessarily, because, you know, and I see this inflection happening where typically a business-oriented group says this is all the things that we want to do. Now, how is technology going to empower or enable those things? And this is changing. And I think it's not just in our industry, it's happening in a lot of places where they want to know what can technology bring to the table, and then they're going to work on their business plan. You know, and so there's a big gap here.
So that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because being asked for ROIs around certain architectures, technology principles can be quite difficult, can't it?
Yeah, but I'm living this, you know, it's a phenomenon that's really happening in the last year. And it's an uncomfortable place for a lot of IT, and I tell my teams this, and this is one of those change things that we need to work on, because we are not used to having to lead in that way.
No.
It's somebody, we are more in the order taker business. People tell us, you know, then we go figure out how technology and things like that will work.
Can you give us any examples of?
Virtually everything that we now call digitalization is an example. Myself and just a few of my colleagues have been I would say we are still a bit behind in the overall concepts of digitalization, but about a year ago, we started these things. That has come with some baggage, because when we talk, everyone hears the IT guy speaking. You know, and so they tend to like, oh, wait a minute, you know, what's happening here? This might be very narrow and so on. So this is the change that is happening. And you know, that says that we have to come with a different set of skills and orientation to problem solving, completely different from the way that we have been trained in. So
when you say new skills, are you talking about skills that involve looking at business cases? So we mentioned use cases. So does it go beyond use case to business case?
You know, maybe I'll add or modify what Harmeen was saying, and she was talking about generalists versus specialists and so on. You know, but when I think about how do you guys, you know, if you look at a Google, Apple, Microsoft, you know, the tech companies, right, the Cisco's, are those people, you know, those technology people are having to be extremely savvy and knowledgeable about technology, but also about the business space that they work in. So I think in our industry, we need to be, at least in this context, more like those people, right? Where we need to know to agree with Harmeen, we have to have a much better understanding and knowledge of the technology assets, where it's going, how it's going to be connected, and where it's relevant to the consumers that we are serving.
Right.
we have to take charge of that space so much more than we have
Thank
done
you.
before.
Could we move on to the people that work for you in terms of what you're asking of them in terms of change? I don't know who wants to pick that one up first. We go back to you, Ibrahim.
I know I'm seeing the red light.
We've got 4 minutes.
So,
yeah.
I think really they just have to know that our life is all about change. If you look at everything we come every year, there's something new. So if somebody's expecting to do the same thing for 3 to 4 years, they're effectively not the people who will be promoted and move forward, right? It has to be that flexibility. And I just want to comment on Vinod. I agree. People tend to forget that one of the most successful airplanes in the whole world, is a 747, was MPV negative. So if I look at, and if you remember, Polaroid was MPV negative at Kodak. So I just think we as an industry need to work with our business brethren to see how we're able to gauge the strategic value of some of the platforms, because as we become partners, we're building platforms and enablers. And then the business will say, oh, no, but they're right. I can do one thing much cheaper differently. And it's tough to go put the 100 things there to prove why our platforms are right. So change is part of life.
Yeah. So picking up on that generalist versus specialist, is that playing out in your organization as well?
I think the generalists will become more generalists and less of them, and the middle layer, the middle class in technology will disappear. So if you fast forward, we have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and then CTO, CIO. I think tier 2, tier 3 are disappearing by default, so we need to look at the tooling. We need to look at the fact that you have somebody on the ground, and then it goes to an application level. So if we're software-based networking and software providers, that whole handoff doesn't make sense anymore, because it could be anywhere around the world.
And are you there yet in terms of making those decisions?
Not by a long shot. And I think part of the challenge, as Vinod said, now that you virtualize, you have the old and the virtualized.
Yeah, so you're duplicating at the moment. Yeah.
So we have a spike in cost, which the whole industry is sharing. So we need to work with our partners to smooth it forward, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Thierry?
I think there is one point where I fully agree with, around the fact that in technology teams, people need to be passionate about technology. It's a basic stuff, but as you say, less and less generalized profiles will be required. We have to do much more things by ourselves. Doesn't mean we'll do everything, but just in order to be able technically to efficiently collaborate with our industry, with our ecosystem, with service providers and solution providers, we need to code more. We need to do things ourselves. And to me, it's a question of mindset as much as a question of hard skills. So typically, I think when I look at my own organization, which is spanning across several countries with labs everywhere, etc., it's not just the developers who should code.
Yeah.
Everybody.
So I have a VM permanently installed on my laptop. I can open up my Linux, I can put a Docker image, and I can test it, or I can decide to push it on the test Kubernetes sandboxes, etc., etc. And if I'm not able to do it and demonstrate to my guys that I slightly understand what these guys are doing, then probably I'm not able to interact with them at the right level.
Yeah.
Now, does that stop with me? No. You know, we have support functions in all our organization. If you want your HRD to be able to help you deeply conduct this transformation with all the soft and hard skills, she also needs to understand what it is about. So my HRD 3 years ago went through a workshop with my CFO, with all of my directors, and we had them to deploy in production a multi-site geo-redundant Cassandra cluster, right? So I probably have the only HRD in the world who know now how to deploy a Cassandra cluster, right? But at least when she comes to an engineer and she discusses about soft skill evolution, hard skill evolution, new technology, she gets what it is about.
Yeah. I must
God help you.
last word, Vinod, because we're out of time. So.
So I think the beauty of a lot of this change dialogue, I've never been in a situation where we don't all vehemently agree on the need for change or transformation. But I think the beauty of life is most people think that it doesn't apply to them. right? I think you need to change. I think you and you need to change. But I didn't really mean me. And so my first statement here is be the agent of change, right? Look, and Shankar was mentioning it even yesterday, which is we have this large workforce that you have to, retrain, reskill, and so on. So when people can acknowledge and look at, how they've done things, learn from that, and be the agent of change, and that I think will be one of the most powerful things that we can do.
I would quote President Obama: "Be the change you want to see," and I think we apply it. We start being efficient at applying it, and it makes a big difference.
I'm glad we ended on a President Obama quote rather than a President Trump quote. Maybe that's just me. So Ibrahim, Thierry, and Vinod, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
So we're going to leave you.